Let's call this meeting to order then. And the first thing is roll call. Do we have Councilman Johnson with us? Not yet. He's usually in here in the first 5 minutes, and he hates approving agendas.
He is here.
So, okay, all right, great. Well, the first order of business is agenda approval. Does anybody have anything to say about the agenda?
Move to approve as presented.
Councilman Johnson, did you hear that? All right, then we will.
Yes, second.
Okay, we will call it approved then. Are there any members of the public online?
None.
So then we will not worry about public comment. Minutes. Approval of the minutes dated December 5th, 2023. I didn't approve of that meeting when we had it, but what do you guys think? Are we happy with the minutes?
I have no questions or revisions.
Councilman Johnson?
I don't think so. I don't think I have anything to correct.
All right. All those in favor of approval?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All right. They're approved. And on to agenda bills. AB 24-010, resolution awarding 25 to 30 utility rate study contract. Who's going to talk to us about that, Dylan?
Andrea, you ready? All right. Good evening, Council, Mayor. I am going to give a quick update or explainer, I suppose, on this agenda bill. So, Agenda Bill 2410 is the follow-up procedure for what we worked on at the very tail end of last year with the, I believe it's called the 2024 Fiscal Health Utility Rate Review, or some very good tongue twister. It essentially gave us the ground rules for how we're going to proceed with 2024's utility rates. We have worked in that process. We all approved the ordinance, and this is the follow-up in that we're going to now look at 2025 going forward. So our current utility rates, based on our current code, extend to 2025. So this is a bit, so we're cast in the future. We have 2025 rates. However, with the changes we made in 2024 and the reasons that we made that quicker turnaround, we're looking at utility rates now in front of the biennial budget review and CIP updating so that we have accurate rates going forward for both those documents. The contract that this agenda bill is in regards to is to hire the same firm that we hired for the 2024 fiscal rate study to conduct that more thorough utility rate study overall, with future rates all the way through 2030. So for the following 5 years or 6 years. The process that we went through to find FCS is we actually kind of did this a bit out of order. So what we did was we had we had gone through an RFP process to find a consultant to do the utility rate study, this one that we're talking about now. And before we initiated that process, we conducted the 2024 fiscal health review. So we kind of put pause on the full main study to do the fiscal health review because we selected FCS Group for both activities. One of the advantages to that is that FCS has conducted our past 2 or maybe even 3 utility rate studies, so they're familiar with the city. In addition to that, they would be able to do a quicker turnaround for the 2024 fast-paced but shorter breadth of review. For this process, we also selected FCS Group with the 2 applicants or candidates, I suppose. It was a sole practice, so we had two consultants apply to that RFP. We selected FCS Group based on experience, past experience with other jurisdictions of a similar size and scope of utility districts, as well as the price point. So that is why we selected and have now brought this contract.
They were the lowest respondent bidder?
No, it's not a bid.
No, it's RFP, request for a proposal. They gave us the most accurate proposal, and then we went through and got a price.
It was a proposal. Did get pricing.
Okay.
So did the other applicant also submit a proposal with a price?
They did not submit with a price. The bid would give us a price. With a proposal, we ask for a set of qualifications, very similar to an RFQ in this terms of we're asking for qualifications, skill set, personnel that would be active on the contract, and their proposal on how to achieve our expectations.
Okay.
And then we would work together to fine tune the price. If we
Understood.
wanted to
So
change.
okay, so you weren't bidding it out for cost. You were bidding it out for the service,
For
that you
service,
wanted to
yeah.
get. Okay. And this and these guys were closer to what we were looking for.
Right. I went down a little bit of a bid dialogue there, and I probably should have stood further apart from that.
Okay.
This was an RFP process, not a bid. We did not get prices. I said
Okay.
that I'd like to take it back.
I
We
understand
deducted
now.
the price part after we had selected.
I understand now. Okay. And this is not a process that requires a multiple bidders or a lowest bidder choice. It's a different kind of process.
We have options. We could have done a review with MRSC roster, selected several candidates, reviewed them. That would have been an option. We chose to, we could have done an RFQ or an RFP, and then a bid would be more for like a construction project.
Okay.
So we chose the RFP process.
Councilman Johnson, you got any questions?
No, they're familiar with the city, so no questions.
Okay.
So I do request city attorney review. I'm a little confused by terminology. There's RFQ and there's RFP. Usually RFP also includes price. So I'm a little confused by the two-step here. So we need to make sure that we're all in alignment on everything's good. The description you have of RFP is RFQ. You are asking for qualifications from a vendor. The proposal do the statement of work. From there, you determine best qualified and you negotiate price. That's RFQ. And so, again, it's a terminology thing that's throwing me here, I believe. So just please do a review.
We, when we publicly produced it, we called it an RFP. And so that's, I think, there is a very close, like,
Yeah.
I'll let you jump in if you want to
No,
talk about
guys, don't go
distinctions,
into it.
but-
There are legal definitions.
Right.
Mhm.
According to the RCW. Make sure you are in compliance. Make sure you are familiar if you're going to do these things. What you described to me was an RFQ, according to the RCW. My belief, the attorney can tell me I'm a hole in the head. That's okay. But let's check the books. What do the books say? So the attorney has the books.
Okay. Does that make sense to you guys? Oh, thank goodness. Okay. All right.
I'm splitting hairs, but it's an important hair.
Was there something else you were going to tell us about this, Bill? I think there's probably more to it.
Yeah, we can certainly go to the budget section. I believe that's the kind of next logical step. So, can you all see what I can see? Yes. The city has, with this biennium, allocated $100,000 from 3 of the utilities to contribute. So 40, 20. So the stormwater contributing the 20,000 of that 100,000. 16 was used to conduct the 2024 fiscal health review. This contract is for $127,970, which means that with the 100,000, we would be over budget for this contract. The solution that was given as a way to move forward with this contract, given the shortfall in this line item, was to reduce the amount of transfer out from this fund to the utilities capital, and instead effectively using capital utility fund money to cover the remainder of the $44,040. I can clarify if you need.
2 questions from there.
Mhm.
So you're, as with $100,000 budget, $127,000 bid tab with 16,000 already spent. You're $44,000 over budget. I don't see any documentation in here where we have by phase or statement of work item within the proposal a dollar figure. So tell me what steps were done to try to bring this without going out and going somewhere else for the money. What steps were done to try to bring this contract back under budget as proposed?
Go ahead.
Okay, my end was to make sure that the contract contained all of the work that we needed to do in order for us to be able to do the updated study. And part of that is some expanded work that is related to the Class A water system plan and the financial chapters that need to be conducted in order for it to be properly categorized for us to move forward. So part of this is to so we almost got a little bit in the opposite direction in a sense that I was making sure that this contract contained everything we needed to go forward, and considering the meetings that we would have, things of that nature, and this is that contract. We did negotiate. Some things were removed that were not needed because we did the 2024 fiscal health review. So the price did come down a bit from that, but in the process of adding the Class A considerations, it was netted out. I don't have with me right now any of the details that show the differences between the negotiations, but that is the brief verbal.
Yeah, part of the issue there too is what we budgeted was not keeping up with inflation. Frankly, the costs have gone up for all of our consultants. So when we worked out a scope, we just had missed the budget because when we came up with the budget, we didn't realize how much costs had gone up from our consultants.
This is like a 27% over, right?
Yeah, and I think part of it too
Does inflation account for all of that?
I think it accounts for most of it. I think also it accounts for the fact that based on our last round of doing these utility rate studies, they knew they were going to need to do more meetings because they know that our council likes to meet and wants a lot more of their time. So we added we added some more meeting time in there because that's what we anticipated we were going to need.
Well, can we just get them to talk faster and fewer meetings?
Wait. So I raised the question, and really, that same logic applies to the capital projects under which you're going to get money off of that. So I don't care how we got here. We got here where we're proposing an action above and beyond budget allocated. Step one, how do I try to bring this back in? Step two, where do I go get to offset to bring that back in? How you got there, I don't really care. It's where you are and what you do as a result of that. Okay, you are $44,000 over your allocated budget for whatever reason. Okay, all I ask is what steps were done to try to bring the statement of work reasonably back under that original $100,000. And I put reasonably in there specifically because it may not be reasonable. Okay, it just is. Okay, but I need to understand you guys did that step. Okay, so and you've said there were some negotiations, whatever. It's not in the material here. There were some negotiations as we go through this. Love to see some of that data. Okay, because that's the kind of questions I'm going to ask you guys. Buying a pair of shoes again. You'll ask my wife. It's conversations I have. You said it was going to cost how much? How much are these shoes, and where's? Can we go somewhere else or somewhere else? Okay. Sorry to be not feminist there.
Anti-shoe, I think.
Anti-shoe. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
So, but doesn't the budget? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Doesn't the budget? So we've gone over it, but we also did the interim utility rate increase, and so that was also charged to the budget, and that was not anticipated that we would have that additional step. Is that correct?
Yes, the revenues went up from that action. However, we didn't anticipate it specifically to this line item, so it didn't distribute evenly. It would have gone to the fund group when we do a budget amendment. But this line item, unless it was specifically targeted to be remembered to increase, it wouldn't have been noticed. It's kind of buried within all of the maintenance and operations funds as a contributor. So
The interim that we just went through
yeah, and
with FCS.
right. And generally speaking, all those funds, since we budget by the fund, this one item going over budget would not necessarily cause the whole fund to go over budget, but rather just we're overspending our what we called out specifically for our utility rate study, but not our fund in general for each of those 3 utilities.
And then if we reduce the number of meetings, it's charged by the meetings, right? And so would the overall cost come down if we do not have the 10 meetings versus normally there should be 6 or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean-
Specifically, they call it a certain amount of hours per meeting, so we could reduce it.
Yeah, we could let the guys stay home every now and when we're having a council meeting or something. When we drag them in here, I feel sorry.
So should we give it another pass, see if we can bring down this total and include in the explanation?
Let's go through because we're not done yet. Okay, so that's, again, I'm asking to see some of that stuff you did to try to contain costs and everything else. So with that, it's 127K plus a 16K, we're 144,000. The proposal to adjust that is to reduce the transfer of funds out of utilities into capital projects to the tune of that $44,000, with the belief that that affects no project content or schedule.
I'm going to speak for finance a little bit on this one, but feel free to jump in. This is essentially a way to get the capital side of the maintenance and operation and capital utilities to pay for the overrun. And my understanding is that all the utility money comes into the non-capital side and a transfer out is done to the capitals. So instead of transferring out naturally and then asking them to transfer it back, this would just be a way of reducing the amount we transfer out to capital so that it's covering that cost, this cost specifically. And as far as impacting the utilities, there is, in regards to 44,000, no projects would be impacted under this based on the 2024 fiscal health review we just did. There's far and away more money to pay for projects, partially because of the rates, the increase in rates for 2024, as well as reserves for each of these far exceed any number of closest. I don't know the exact numbers of the reserves right now, but
Okay, so the statement drives me to the question of, are the capital projects overstated?
for the capital projects,
Are the capital projects in the utility CIP overstated to the extent that you can undernourish them by $44,000 to make this up and not affect any project or any schedule at all?
I don't believe there's any risk in spending this money from each of these 3 utilities on any capital project, given that not all capital projects can proceed at the rate that we predicted and at the cost we estimated. Right now, we don't have capital projects that are far exceeding the fund balance for the capital funds of each of the 3 utilities. So there's plenty of reserve, and the timing of the projects means that we cannot complete them all like we anticipated. Oftentimes in past years, and this year's no difference, there's likely to be some amount of projects that were either not able to proceed forward because of development requirements or match or something of that nature, or timing and staff ability.
What you said is not what's written.
For the talk to Gina, but which part? And maybe I can clarify.
In the budget analysis section,
In the budget analysis section, upper section or lower?
There's background, there's analysis, and then there's budget. Are you talking about in budget?
last sentence says, this decrease in transfer is not anticipated to slow project completion for the duration of the six-year CIP.
Right. So I was just referencing this biennium's budget for the utilities. I think the reason, the rationale being that the reserves of these funds far exceed this overrun for each of them. that no risk to any of the one utilities would be at play, the capital or otherwise. This is my understanding of the budgetary intent there.
Okay. I'm just asking you to show your homework, okay? That statement was not at the level of performance I know you guys can do. Okay? We're talking, we're going to have to go out to voters and ask for more money from the community. So that's commensurate upon ourselves that we are showing that we're doing our part to limit what that ask is to the appropriate level. Okay, so that your homework stuff needs to be in here. Okay. I'm good to go, Chair.
Quick, when was this initially budgeted? What year was it initially budgeted, this project?
23.
2022 was when the
Yeah,
budget
2022.
It was originally budgeted in 22, and then and
Or-
now we're doing.
for
Okay.
20, yeah.
Well, I'm sure inflation plays a part in that. All right, Councilman Johnson, anything to add?
The only question I have on that is, in general, is it the city's practice to include this in every budget effectively, that every couple of years we'll do a rate study?
I don't think it has to be. It is in this biennium, and it probably would be in a few years. I don't know that it's intended every biennium, but we typically do these rate studies for quite a few years, 4 years. And in our case, we did more in the past one, and we'll probably do the same matching amount. But it seems like every 4 years is when a rate study's up for renewal. But it is actually at the discretion of council, and in the budget, in theory, it could be done more frequently, but isn't traditionally.
Yeah. I know there are some municipalities, not Snoqualmie, which have gone extended periods of time without doing rate studies and ended up doing like 50% or more increase in
Yeah, I
rates
think that
once
would
they
be
actually
bad.
look at the math.
That would be bad.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
Or also looked at their treatment plant is not capable of supporting the load and got to go build a new one. So it behooves us to periodically go through and do these rate studies.
Councilman Johnson, it sounded like you were about to say something else.
Nope, just agreeing. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. So then, all right. So what are we doing? Are we sending this back for further clarification before we send it forward? Is that what we're talking about, or are you satisfied with the answers we received? Councilman Holloway.
In part, I leave it to administration. I would expect some of these answers as a discussion as part of the council meeting. If you feel there's time between now and then to get that put together, your guys' call whether you want to move forward with this or not.
This is for the meeting on Monday. Yes.
Correct.
Council.
Okay.
Yeah,
think so.
not tomorrow.
You're comfortable with
Yeah, we can get.
with addressing all of this by then? Go ahead.
Yes, please. Yeah, I think we can get the answers. We can answer those questions. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Great. Thank you, Mr. Gamble.
move forward. Non-consent.
On not on consent, is that what you said?
On consent.
Not on consent. So whatever not on consent is, the other one.
Something like on consent.
Okay. Yeah, what Joe said. Okay. Now we're on to discussion. Number 3 is capital facilities and utilities element recommendation.
Yeah, and I believe that Director Arteche was going to give that presentation today, but she is not here. So I don't know. I
Okay.
texted her. I think so. I talked to her earlier today, but I don't know why she's not here. So
Is it okay to shift it out to next meeting?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we can move it back. In fact, they canceled their planning meeting yesterday. So we'll move to the next
Do
discussion.
you know
item.
where Ms. Arteche is? Is that where you're coming up?
No, but
Are
I
we
can-
moving on to number 4?
Yeah. just
Okay,
jump in the
all right. Our prayers are with Ms. Arteche. Make sure that she's okay. Water reclamation facility phase 3 project update.
All right, that is me. And I think when we last spoke on this project, we awarded a contract for the bulk of the work at the water reclamation facility. That was in June 2023. And since then, the contractor's broken ground and has been working diligently to move the project forward at the water reclamation facility. So if you recall, this project it's a complex project. It includes capacity expansions, replacement of equipment that's reaching the end of its life, and some performance improvements. The bulk of the work is happening at the oxidation ditches, which are the two large ditches shown here. That's where the liquid process, the bulk of it, takes place. Other improvements that are part of this project include increasing capacity of the solids handling facility on the upper left there, replacing equipment at the headworks, and then replacing electrical and mechanical equipment at the Kimball Creek lift station, which is the large lift station. It's across the river, but it's the main lift station that feeds the treatment plant. So the two projects processes interact in that way. So we awarded the contract at the WRF in summer 2023 to Prospect Construction. Over summer, Ecology completed their remaining review on the plans, and in September 2023, they broke ground at the WRF site. And then moving forward, we're looking at process startup of the new improvements in summer 2024. That's moved forward about 3 to 6 months. The contractor's moving faster than schedule, so that's why I've struck out winter there. And then
Can you do that? Just strike
So
out
wait,
strike out winter? I like that idea.
It appears to be what's happening this year.
Summer's coming. Summer's coming after winter this year, isn't it?
Maybe I should have put fall, the end of 2024. So
it was going to be. It was gonna be the tail end, like the tail end of December that we were gonna start. And now we're starting in the summer.
correct.
Okay, all right.
That's the current projected schedule.
Okay, all right. Because it looks like a delay by like 6 months there.
No, that's in
Got it.
an advance.
So you were talking about the other 2024 winter, the one that comes at the end.
Yeah, winter
Okay.
always gets me in that.
Okay, all right. No, that's fair. That's fair.
But so that is a advancement in the schedule. Summer 2025, the projects at the WRF should be completed, and then summer 2025 as well, the Kimball Creek lift station improvements will be completed, and that portion of the project is actually delayed 9 to 12 months because of some supply chain impacts on the electrical gear for the lift station. If you recall, we pre-purchased the bulk of the electrical gear for the WRF. We did not do it for the Kimball Creek lift station. We just bid that project early. Apparently it wasn't early enough because we were seeing some impacts on that equipment. None of these schedule changes should impact obligations to sewer customers. So construction progress, this was October, constructing the new blower building foundation and electrical beneath the building. They put in approximately 300 feet of a new sewer line and electrical conduit also that month. They erected the new blower building, which goes next to the oxidation ditches. This was kind of in November, December. And that is, as at the end of the year, that's the new blower building next to the oxidation ditches. Highlights that have gone well with construction. The weather's been pretty good. We haven't had too much wet weather. Had some windy days recently, but they've been able to keep working. The early equipment procurement of equipment, they've purchased all the equipment. We have delivery dates for equipment. So the schedule that we're presenting today is based on those delivery dates. And then they completed all the below grade work without any surprises. So that's always a great milestone to have passed. And then challenges, the electrical gear, supply chain delays, which I mentioned, and then a bulk of the work is retrofit work. So we have to keep interim operations in place while we work on equipment. We have to keep the process going, keeping wastewater treated during that all. So there's a lot of planning that goes into that I think we still have ahead of us. Just a recap on the budget status. We're not planning any contract changes currently. We do anticipate probably a change order 1 will be brought forward in the next 6 months approximately to stay ahead of the project schedule. Those changes are for various equipment changes that the contractor identified in their review. And then what we are seeing a change in the cash flow. So the contract amounts are not changing, but with advancing the schedule, we'll be spending more cash in 2024 at the WRF site than originally planned. Some of that was going to be spent in 2025, but since they're moving faster, we'll be spending in 2024. And then similarly at the Kimball Creek Lift Station, where there's a delay of 9 to 12 months, approximately $1 million that was going to be spent in 2024 will now be spent in 2025. So there's a bit of a flip-flop there. And at the time of the contract,
Quick question on that.
yes.
Sorry, Councilman Johnson, I couldn't see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this says this would result in $1.5 million spending 2024 instead of 25, and then $1 million in 25 instead of 24. So basically, there's a difference there of $500,000 that would have been appropriated in the next. That would have been intended to be appropriated in the next budget. There's on this one. That's how I'm interpreting that. I'm not sure if that's correct or not. But is that what the change would be? They'll be brought to avoid that delay.
That's not the change. That's a correct interpretation of the impact of the 1.5 and the 1 million, but that's not what the change would be.
So would have to prove unless it's appropriated already.
Could you repeat that?
Which one?
I don't know, that whole like,
Wonder if
I
the big
didn't
one
hear any of it. The kid doesn't have to repeat it.
Oh boy.
What did you say again, Councilman Johnson?
I will try. Yeah, if that $500,000 difference wasn't appropriated originally, then I think that would have to be approved by council if I'm not correct.
I think I can clarify a little bit. So at the time of the contract approval in June 2023, one of the challenges was that this project extends beyond the current budget cycle into 2025. So, but we're approving the full contract amount in that budget cycle, knowing that some of it will be spent in 2025 in the next budget cycle. And with that approval and that AB 23078, we agreed that we would provide periodic updates based to update council on the cash flow for this project to make sure that we don't exceed what our current budget, I guess 2024 budget availability is. So if you look at this table here, the bottom right, there's the $11,086,000. That's the projected 2024 expenditures, and then below that, the 553,000 is what is anticipated to be remaining in the current budget. Yeah, so that would not require.
Okay. So we're still within the appropriation.
That's correct. The change order would be a change to the contract amount that was approved in June of 2023. So that would be for the full life of the project. And we would be updating this table at that time based on any, the price of the change.
Great, thanks for the clarification on that.
Hey Joe, sometimes your audio it breaks up. If you mute your video, that'll give your audio more bandwidth and you might experience less breakups on this end.
All right, we'll try that.
No. It was a theory. It didn't work.
Or you can unplug it and then plug it back in. That's the only computer thing I know. So, anything else on this? This was the last page?
I got one more.
Oh, okay, all right.
Usually budget's most exciting for
It
me,
is.
so
It is
if
pretty
we-
exciting. Was there anything else from you on that, or okay?
It's good stuff.
And then next steps moving forward. So winter 2024, we'll be completing the blower building electrical and mechanical work. And then spring, summer, they'll be working on the oxidation ditch. There's 2 of them, so we'll be working on the first one, doing improvements at the headworks, and then starting up the new treatment process. This is the main milestone that meets some of the sewer customer obligations. And then winter 2025, they'll complete the second ditch and do work on the solids handling facility. And then summer 2025, we'll be completing both the Kimball Creek and the WRF site improvements. So, I think the exciting milestone on here is probably that ditch 1 improvements and starting up the new process. We'll have the old process running next to the new one, and they'll basically be creating a new population of biota to treat our new, supply of wastewater. So
That sounds
that'll be
gross. Sounds really disgusting.
It's about a 6 to 8 week process, so it's important to keep them all happy and alive.
No, I remember I had sea monkeys when I was a kid, so yeah, I think I understand it.
It's more like making bread.
Is it more like that?
Yeah, you take the yeast from the last batch and you put it off to the
Oh, so it's like a
side.
sourdough. It's like a starter.
Keep,
Yeah.
you keep
Okay,
bringing
all right,
that
all
yeast
right,
forward
all right.
to make the next batch of
I
bread.
get it.
You
Yeah,
keep
don't
bringing
get
the batch of bugs forward to make the next trench.
Yeah, so that interim operation, that's kind of what I mentioned earlier, is you got to keep the bugs alive throughout the process. So, yeah.
All right. Mr. Boutte, did you have something to add?
Sure. The budget table that you see here in the format that you see it in, it sucks. Let's be honest, right? Because you're having to consider the 2023-2024 budget as well as the life project budget. So we've got a city administrator here who is used to continuing appropriations in former jurisdictions for the most part. And so ideally, as a part of the next budget process that we'll go through, we're going to introduce a new concept overall for council so that you're not having to see 2 separate columns, but just one column tracking the life project budget. And that should be appropriate from then on. So unfortunately, I know we're confusing you guys by having 2 separate kind of columns there, but we will make changes to that.
What makes you think we're going to be able to understand this new concept?
I have a lot of faith.
Oh, all right.
Yes, I know you guys
Might be
very well,
misplaced.
so yes, yeah. You learn quickly, so I appreciate
It's
it.
easier on your end, more difficult on our end.
Oh, okay. I'm
But
not
it's
worried
much
about that.
clearer.
All right. You got this, Spock. Just doing it in your head in the background, right?
Well, ideally, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Holloway? Oh, no, Mayor.
So there's not any delay in the project at all, right? So is this we anticipated for ditch 1 improvements spring and summer 2024?
It's so it's a pretty complex project. I'm going to go back to the pictures because that gives you locations. But the work at the WRF, which brings a new process online, which is needed for the obligations we have with the casino expansion, that's moving ahead of schedule.
Okay.
Approximately 3 to 6 months. The Kimball Creek lift station, that's kind of it ties to this project, but it can be on its own schedule. It won't delay things. That's actually we're seeing about a 9 to 12 months delay on that, but that won't impact any of our obligations. So.
Good. Thank you.
But my water is going to be clean throughout.
This
Yeah,
is the other
right.
end of the process.
This is the other end. Okay. All right. All right.
This is what you provide them.
All right. All right. Okay. That will not be clean. I can tell you that right now. All right. Anything else, Councilman Johnson?
Nope.
Okay. Anything else from you, Mr.
No, thank
We're
you.
all good? All right. Councilman Holloway, anything else?
Good stuff.
All right. Well, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Unless there's more. Is there more? You look like you have something more, Mayor.
No, nothing more.
I'm just looking at the agenda. It looks like we're at the end of it.
I'm just waiting to see if you'll. I wasn't going to give it to you and see if you would do it yourself. Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.